Hello world, Podler team back at it again. We're doing some more track 2 voice training where we go over the various principles of Podler. In this case, we are in the themed section of About Yourself. And there we try to break down one's life experiences, and one's head and heart space into various beats, as like you would see in any kind of a description of a hero from a heroic story. All right, so I am Nige Coach. With me I have Nige, Ben, and Mitchell. And Ben was going to start us off with what he's done in his overall work on this since last time. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So I fleshed out 7 beats. So a lot of them are kind of like are like just little 3-sentence beats, but you know it's nice because like that's enough where it could be a beat. But then you could also add more, like if more comes to you. So it's
exactly. And just you know that technique you're doing there, that's sort of well known in just writing good scenes in a heroic story, is that 3-beat, and then you can go a little more to like 5 if you want to, but the 3-beat, which is first, why is this scene here at all? That's usually, and then like how would you get that? That's usually the middle. And then how do you enter the scene? Get what you want, exit. Enter, action, exit.
yeah.
It's a very good formula. It shows up quite a lot in different kinds of writing.
Yeah, and that enter and exit are like they're very related. Like you'll often find that the intro and the conclusion are basically the same, except one sort of has a way to it that introduces it, and another has a way to it that exits. But it's like, but they're basically like just kind of summarizing, but in a way that like, you know, finishes strong and starts strong.
Well, there's several reasons overlap.
But yeah,
for sure.
Of course, there's multiple different like ways it can happen. Like, I mean, if it's like a creative work, it might not like literally summarize, but if it's like a speech or a presentation, that could, you know, it's pretty. And if it is a creative work, it's like the introduction or the opening scenes and ending scenes, I think will probably have some sort of connection, or a lot of times they will. So
yeah, like three overlaps that I could think of right there in that 3. One is we just did there, which is intro, action, exit. Enter, action, exit. Another one is like logic, right? If then, if so with so then this. And so you also going to kind of, it sets up logical structure as well. It also sets up for like jokes. You know what I mean? Set the scene, put it up, spike it. And then also, I was thinking another one it does. Oh, sales and also education. They're related this way, which is tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you need to tell them. Tell them what you just told them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot there that gives it like power, bardically, and just sort of any kind of expression.
Yeah. Like that last one. You see that in like papers. You see that and also in speeches. Like that was the structure that I typically followed when I did my for my speeches. Some of them, like, I mean, it kind of depended. Like in debate, I didn't do that as much, but when I did like an actual, because that was more like high tempo, like just you wanted to like get as much data in like the first half, and the second half you want to sort of like describe and explain why you should win the debate. But like with the other activity, forensics, I gave more like formal presentations, and they were a little bit more at a regular, I was speaking at a regular speed, and, you know, trying to be persuasive and eloquent and things like that. So
yeah, nice.
But yeah, I guess I can get into some of these.
Great.
So last time we finished off, I was in the middle of gaming. I described, the last beat I did was on like my experiences with like hacking various games. Now we're on random number generator heavy games, known as RNG. So I've always enjoyed the unexpected nature of playing games. If a game is played for too long without variance in outcomes, the game becomes boring for me rather quickly. This is closely related to how events happen in nature, in that action should make sense and correlate with success, but should also be wildly unpredictable in a lot of cases. So one can also seek new and interesting improvements and developments. I'm fond of the unexpected in life and in games. All right, so, and then here I talk about my other. So throughout my life, my other and I believe, have always been quite close, at least relative to most people. Although I have only more recently become aware of this, as I've become aware of the Mojo phenomenon and Podlair. Although I don't typically hear much in terms of like words from my other, she does like playfully say like yeah or no, or sometimes it'll be like a combination, like yeah. So when I dialogue with her, and she fills me with an incredible amount of energy and makes a lot of like cute noises. In fact, she's basically the epitome of cuteness, kind of like a magical kitty cat. She loves to tease and play games with me.
Nice.
So then I get into YouTube, and I broke this up into 2 beats. The first of which I describe basically how I became, how I got into YouTube, and then I describe how that branched out into different areas. Because I originally started with gaming, and then I branched out from there. So I got into YouTube in 2006 to 2007. At about the same time, I was really getting into RuneScape. I was really into watching other people play video games, RuneScape, as well as many others, which expanded my media virtual village a great deal as I became familiar with all sorts of different people and music. This gave me entertainment value in exploring all of the different ongoings of the internet within the media areas that I was interested in, notably gaming. This helped segue into expanding my virtual village even further into other areas using YouTube and other internet websites. So as time went on, this is the next beat, by the way.
Actually, is that a good place to pause then, maybe? These are great. These are really great. The one thing that has come to my mind, though, because I'm becoming a fan of your story here. I mean, I already was, but now even more so, hearing more of it. Some things I'd like to know. The beat with the other, that was a full ride for me. With this beat here and the one before the other, they were really good rides. But on both of them, I wanted to ask at a certain moment the question why. And if I could have been given even a little sentence fragment to answer that why, it would have given me even more fan fullness. So, for example, in I don't remember as the first beat, we had to revisit that one, but for this one, it was when you said something about watching them play or whatever that you got something out of it, right? You said so that.
Yes.
I wanted to ask why or what. What did you get out of it? You know what I mean? If I could have like even a little sentence fragment describing what it was you were getting out of it, that would tell me a lot about you. Right? Because you said.
I guess it was kind of like. I got a lot of. I mean, a lot of this is like.
For me, a point of curiosity.
I guess a lot of energy and excitement from just like following along with the story. I mean, I'm because there's all these different stories, right? So if like somebody's like playing a game and like you're watching them, you're like a part of that story. Okay,
so right there, that's what I was going to talk about. That kind of raised my attention early on, and I think it's related to the why. But I don't know what the answer is. Only you can say that. But when you first said in the beat about you watched people playing the game, I thought to myself, that's interesting. That's different than enjoying playing the game yourself. Do you know what I mean? Or even a tutorial, right? This is beyond enjoying watching a tutorial or a walkthrough. You enjoyed watching other people play a game you already knew how to play.
Yeah.
So that's very, so I think that's what's kind of different, and that you got something. What was it? Did you enjoy being around those people, or just sort of sort of playing the game with them, even though you're ghost walking them? Not ghost walking, skin walking them?
It's hard to explain. It's definitely very entertaining, but it's hard to explain why it's entertaining. Like, it's entertaining because like
entertaining in how they played, like their choices.
Yeah, because it's like a different experience to watch somebody else play a game than watching yourself play it. Because like the way that you might play a game is going to kind of like, I mean, you can actually get kind of bored with the way that you play the game, like in some ways, because you already know like what you're gonna do. But like when you watch someone else play, you don't know what they're gonna do. It's like unexpected. So I think that's probably has something to do with that, I think. And there's probably more to it than that. Like, for example, it's kind of nice to sort of like, you know, ghost walk people and just see like what they're doing. So I think that also plays a role. Yeah, so like there's the unexpected nature, and then there's like the ghost walking aspect too. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's two things you threw off there. I would add those in. Either just little tiny like descriptive fragments, like only a few words, but they, to me, they added quite a lot to the story, which was already good.
Yeah.
It both made that activity sound a bit more metaphysical and awesome, and it told me a lot about you. If you saw that and were into it.
Yeah. I still actually spend a decent amount of time watching people play games. Actually, more than I spend actually playing games myself. It's kind of.
That's interesting.
Yeah. There's this game called like Hearthstone, and it's really fun to watch other people play because you can see like because like everything is kind of like laid like it's a card game. So everything is kind of laid out on the board, so you can always tell exactly what's going on, like at any moment in the game. So, and it also gives kind of like the experience that you're sort of looking over someone else's shoulder and being like, you know, and like thinking like, oh, you know, they should play that card at that moment. So yeah, I think definitely ghost walking, or just like, yeah, or skin walking, whatever. Yeah.
That's awesome. Can you pause one moment here? I'm going to grab my tea and I'll be right back. We'll continue.
Hi, Jelly.
So are we on to your next beat?
Yeah, so the next beat, I talk about how I branched out into other areas because of my interest in YouTube and the videos I watched with, you know, people playing games and so forth. As time went on, especially due to the suggested videos feature on YouTube, I became more familiar with internet culture in general and branched out to other forums and areas besides YouTube. So for example, like being like suggested one video and then you go and click on that video and then you become interested in something, and then from there like you have the access to the entire internet. That really caused me to branch out into other areas and really gave me direction in that regard. So this include politics, you know, atheism, typology, music, anime, and many more. In short, my connection to YouTube gave me an avenue to search the web for other forms of media, which gave me a knowledge base that I could eventually channel into Podlayer. In fact, the very way in which I came across Podlayer was on YouTube. From here, I mean, this would be a pretty good segue beat and talk about how I got into Podlayer. Although it's kind of like, it's also part of YouTube, so it's,
yeah,
which is like connected to gaming. So it's, but I think it's, you know, still a pretty good place.
Yeah, very good. And are you doing a beat on typology?
Let's see. I think I am.
Where's that going? Because
yeah, that's like
that might go there too.
Yeah, typology is a little bit further down. It's like right before the one where I talk about how I got into Podlayer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there, how many beats are between there and where we are now?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 beats. And
what's that sweep about in general?
I talk about like school stuff, programming. Let's see.
And so was
Podlayer. I actually mentioned Podlayer friends in here, but I could probably move that.
Okay.
Or I could like, yeah. In fact, that one probably.
Can I ask a question now?
Yeah.
Because it might be an important time to kind of know this. Are we going for more of a where you are in your headspace arc, or are we going a bit chronological? What do you think is kind of with what you've done so far?
I'm kind of doing. I'm trying to keep it chronological, but not like strictly adhering to it.
Okay.
Because some of these things are very general and span like many years, so it's not really possible to make it chronological because they're much broad. They legitimately cannot be like chronologically, like broken up. Like they're too broad.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, cool. So then what we'll do is just keep this in mind, like a liquidity, as we are making the first arc, is that it's going to be a first arc. That's obviously going to be more structure we had so far. So in that way, it's firm, but it's still soft. And if there's going to be, you know, as you write it out, you may actually start doing a little game of switch around a few beats.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is that would probably end up moving a lot of these things around. But it's nice that they can stand on their own, because that makes it a lot easier to move things around.
And as long as you have some general logic to the first arc, then you can flesh that up more as you write.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So okay, so I just did the I just finished YouTube. At least I think I did, unless
makes sense.
My connection. Yeah. Okay. So here I talk about like I guess what my let's see. Yeah. I'm not really sure what to title this one, but it's basically describing what it was like for me after I moved from. Actually, I'm wondering. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. So this basically describes like what it was like for me to move from Minnesota to Michigan, and what my life was like after that. So this was a pretty dull and pretty lonely part of my life. I did. Well, I should probably say what it is, but yeah. So I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna say just a brief sentence describing the time part of my life this is. So yeah, the transition, you know, moving from, you know, Minnesota to Michigan, that was a pretty like after that was a pretty dull and lonely part of my life. I did make some friends in Michigan prior to becoming Podlayer, but very few could be considered close, and none who were really close. I had much more trouble making friends after moving from Minnesota to Michigan between 7th and 8th grade than I had when I moved from Arizona to Minnesota in the 3rd grade. I became better at having casual friendships with people, worse at developing close friendships. I would go to school, go home, stare into space for like 10 minutes, and then play video games every single day, basically, until I joined debate.
That's good. It segues into, is debate coming up next, or?
It's very soon. after this.
Cool.
Nice. So here I talk about the academic aspect of school and what that was like for me. My grades were pretty bad when I, for the most part, when I was in school, all the way from like kindergarten to around through ninth grade. I found school in general to be very tiresome, not worth it, socially or academically. I just wanted to get home as soon as possible to browse YouTube or play games. However, this became a different experience when I joined debate. I started getting straight A's and overall became a star student because I had a reason to become more interested in academic subjects than I had previously. And I also just overall became a lot smarter and better at studying through the extremely high intensity training that the activity provides. Do you think this one could use more of a why, or do you think this one might be good?
Well, I don't know if necessarily why, but I felt there was like a two thrust here. There was the thrust of prior to debate and then debate. I kind of would like to then have, I don't know, like a closure on that, like a takeaway. So, like, for example, like I've learned that, I'm not saying that you should say, but like an example, like I learned that I had to be engaged in order to do something like that, or I learned the value of rigorous training, or I learned, that was a phase for me, and now I'm in a different phase. I kind of feel like you kind of gave like early on, I was like this in school, then I hit debate. Yeah, I kind of feel like there should at least be a little short, and now ...
Oh, so something that describes the status quo.
Yeah, or where you are now, I guess. Your status.
Okay. Quo. Yeah, that's current situation. Status. So where am I at now? Quick note. Yeah, and for some of these, I'm just like writing, like I'm just giving my first attempt, and then I'm just writing like just quick notes for when I go and give my second attempt, and then the second attempt will be a lot faster because I already have the first attempt, and then I'll just like add the changes.
Nice.
And actually, I do get into the current situation the next beat. So maybe I could just like make a quick segue sentence, because the next one I actually covered thoroughly my current situation.
Gotcha. So maybe something like vague, like, and the benefits you said from debate, you didn't like say a sentence like and this is like a benefit that has stayed with me since then, right? That's real vague, but it would then just, it would kind of
that would be pretty simple.
And then it goes right, and then it kind of like begs the question for the next beat.
Yeah, I think that would be. Actually, I'm gonna say for the most part since then, because
sure.
In the next beat, I talk about how I had to like, literally the entire beat is on like just my experience like failing calculus, because like I mean it sounds like it's really like specific, but it actually is a really I think important like turning point in like my academic.
That's great.
I'm not like turning point, but kind of like it was a really important moment, I guess, really to in my life.
Is that the next beat?
Yep, that's the next beat.
Is that one ready to share?
Yeah, I'm just quickly finishing writing this one thing. Yeah. Cool. All right. So when I first got to university, my first semester, I wasn't sure what I wanted to take or what I wanted to do. So I took calculus, thinking that I would probably eventually decide to go into a STEM field that required it. I ended up dropping the course because I had fallen so far behind from not understanding the formal definition of a derivative. This gave me a strong sense of doubt in my abilities when it came to mathematics, and thus I began to doubt whether I should consider going into a STEM field at all. After spending a summer learning about all of differential and most of integral calculus on Khan Academy, I retook the course and succeeded massively. This gave me a lot of energy and inspiration that I channeled into my skill in programming and my heroism in general.
Nice. I like that. Challenge, a victory, and then using the new gift, the new power going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really satisfying because like when it comes to mathematics, like I'm very good at mathematics. It's just, it's very, and I think most people relate to this. Or at least, well, most people who have experienced, you know, significant control of mathematics, which I guess is most people, would you know, it's just very abstract the way it's covered. You know, you're typically given like the definition or like a formula, and they, you know, you're told how to apply it, but you're told how to apply it in a very strictly, you know, really abstract and formulaic kind of way, not in terms of what actually happens in nature, that makes that mathematics important. So I think there could be more of a stronger relationship between the covering of mathematics and the covering of the sciences, and just in general making it more like covering it in a less like, you know, Greek, like abstract, like, you know, Greek way. I mean, I'm sure you've seen like the formulas, they have like the sigmas and all that other stuff. It's hard for people, people get very easily intimidated by that because the people don't really know what the symbols mean. And it becomes really annoying having to learn all these different symbols while they mean, like a lot of them mean like really simple things. Right, a lot of them can be expressed in much simpler expressions, but it becomes intimidating to, you know, make it basically to make it about like to focus. I think there's too much of a focus on the abstract formulas than actual application of them. But
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that's the end of the 7 beats I have for today.
Very nice. Great. Okay. That's a lot of good progress forward. So Mitchell, we'll go over now what you've done since last time, and then we'll kind of just go from there, what you guys want to do productively with the time. So whenever you're ready, Mitchell. You feel the story view kind of shaping up there, Ben?
Yeah, I feel like it's, I don't know, I feel a lot more confident too. Like I'm sort of getting,
nice.
Yeah, it feels good. It feels satisfying.
And this is an interesting story, isn't it? This is a very interesting story. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, especially that other beat, like that felt really good. I mean, it felt kind of like nervous, but like once I wrote it, like it's funny, like once I got it on paper, I suddenly felt like really confident about it.
Yes.
It's like, yeah.
Spirits are like, you're doing good. Like, yeah, I am doing good, huh?
Yeah. Because like, you know, that's like exactly, or, you know, that's what you should be saying, you know, on the topic. So like once it's there, it's like, you know, that's my message, you know?
Exactly. So. That's a good feeling. And it's instructive. About something can make you tremulous at first, can end up feeling very empowering and just joyous once you do it.
Yeah.
Oh, Mitchell's gone.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe he had connection problems or something.
Okay.
I'm not, because it seemed like when you were saying that it was his turn to go, that he hadn't responded right away. So I was wondering. So it could be a.
He sent me an email. He's going to need to restart.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay,
We've got a lot of time, so.
Yeah. So in the meantime, I think then to be productive with you, we just get you started this. You continue this while Mitchell's going if you want. Just thinking about it. Is what's some more beats you would like to break now? Why don't you pick one? And what I would recommend is going to the beginning of your arc. Always going to the beginning of your arc, not always, but a lot of the times going to the beginning of your arc, and then just sort of going through the trajectory and seeing what's the earliest beat you can feel interested enough or knowing enough to break down to an outline.
Yeah. So I've been doing this in chronological order of the beats.
Cool.
So the next one would be like the next one. It would be Mazout.
That's great. Okay, cool.
So here it seemed like Mazout would be good to cover just because it's like, I'm talking about like school and stuff.
Sure.
So
do you want to kind of just talk to me now, just off the cuff, what you're thinking, and maybe something?
Yeah. So, I guess with my Mazout, I mean, it's mostly just been kind of like this lazy. I mean, not really lazy, but sort of like you do what you have to do, and then I attend these hangouts, and then I try to do a little bit on the side. But before Podlayer, it was literally just I would, and I talked a little bit about this, but I would just, I do what most people did. I'd go to school and then when I became interested or more motivated in school, I would do homework, and then I would, sometimes I would have like an extracurricular activity like debate, but then beyond that, I didn't really have like much of a schedule, but I did develop some rituals. There were certain times where I'd play certain games, and then it would kind of become a ritual for me to play that game at that time during my life. So if I was really into a particular game, I would oftentimes play it again and again and again, and then I would find something else and play it again and again and again. And if I was into like a video series on YouTube, I would, I'd watch that, and I would just keep watching it every time I had time to do it. So that was kind of the style of how I structured my day. And
how do people? That's a very good. One little thing I was wondering about is how did others around you interpret these Mazouts that you took on? How you structured your life?
For the most part. So, with me and my family, I mean, it's always been like, I go to school and then I go into my cave, which I mean is, pretty accurate. So there was time that I was, at school or whatever I had to do, and then there was time I was in my cave. That's the major interpretation. Like anybody who, who knows me, physically. Which is basically my family. That's like how I.
So you are a Lair Lab cave dweller, such as myself.
Yeah, that's basically, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Except I don't even go up for school anymore, and haven't. It's quite some time.
Yeah.
I do go out, but it's like missions. You know what I mean? Like I go out and do. I get myself worked up, and I'll do specific things, but then I like to come back to the lair.
Yeah, I mean, you do what you have to, and then you come back, and that's kind of like what's been like for me. But when I got involved with Podlayer, I started like, because my Mazout was kind of like a little bit sort of, I guess, lazy, because it was kind of like, well, not lazy, but just sort of like really, it was kind of a dull like perspective. It's like with your Mazout, you could do like all sorts of things. You can structure and do things, and you could you can structure your day all sorts of different ways, you know, have different routines that you do. But for me, I had a very like worldly routine. I wasn't, you know, focused on really doing, you know, heroic good with my time and energy. I was focused on just doing what I had to. So that was the relationship I had with my Mazoot. It would always be like I would do what I would have to do, and then I would play and have free time, you know. And I think a lot of people are like that, and that's kind of the way it works. But if that's all there is, then there isn't, you know, any time for heroic work. If that's all you're doing, so I had to actually, you know, change. I had to update my Mazoot to include heroic work, and I have. I'm now following a principle of doing a certain number of hours every day where I do work that's more like on the productive end of the spectrum than like the relaxation end of the spectrum. And that helps me, you know, not work myself too hard, but also not, you know, spend too much time relaxing. Because and what that allows me to do is I get to, you know, I get to complete all the things that I need to do. That gives me enough hours where I can always complete what I need to do. But then I usually have time left over that I can spend doing heroic work with Podlayer.
Nice, very cool.
Yeah, it's really, I think that's a really good principle. Like it's helped me so much. Like the principle of like, you know, just spending like a certain number of hours just working each day. You know, regardless of, you know, what it is, you know, and it might work differently for other people. I'm sure some people, you know, may choose to work harder, like on the days that they do work really hard, and then maybe have some days where they don't work as hard. But for me, I really like that consistency. It helps me kind of like, you know, because otherwise it would kind of feel like too much all at once. You know, if I was used to doing things just for a few hours every day, and then suddenly I'm working like 9 hours, it feels like too much of a jump, and it's hard to motivate myself to do it. And also kind of helps you figure out like an equilibrium. Like if you do enough days like with the same routine, you know, and that's one thing that's really good about Mazoot is like you can get like really strong sense of what that's like, and then make adjustments from there where you think, you know, would be more energetically beneficial. And you can basically develop like a formula or like an algorithm for how you should plan your days and ritualize your life schedule and all of that.
Nice, very nice. We said a lot of good stuff there. Do you want to see if right now, while it's hot and fresh, if you can maybe try and capture a 3 or 5 point outline of what you think you want to say there? You said several good points.
Yeah, sure. I think that would be good. Yeah, I think I definitely have enough. I could just construct one right here. Because I probably said like a good like 10 sentences there or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, yeah, and now it's kind of like, since it's fresh, kind of pull out some goodies that come to your mind.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying talking about these spirit forms.
It's one of my favorite.
Yeah, it's a nice, like even though it's just like the main ones. Those are like the biggest ones. So it's sort of it captures. It works really well for giving like a beat. You know,
it does,
because it's always going to be like important to talk about one of those, but it also like captures so much. Let's see. All right, so Mazoot. All right, so I've got a beat quickly written up here. I guess I'll just speak it, and we can go from there. For most of my life, I've scheduled and ritualized my days to do the work I absolutely needed to for school or extracurricular activities, and spend the rest of my time playing video games or doing the things I like to do to relax. This is a pretty typical relationship for people to have with their Mazoot, but once I became a member of Pod Layer, became a parent, and was a parent for a while, that I wasn't making enough time for heroic work as I would like to be making, as my spirits felt that I should be making. Thus, I switched over to working a certain number of hours every day on productive work, which is enough to do the schoolwork and so forth I need to do, while also leaving enough time for productive heroic work with Pod Layer, and also does not cause me to overwork myself.
Nice. That's a good beat. That's a nice beat.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it talks about like what it was like in the past, the challenge, you know, with that way of life, and then how I transitioned over to what I'm doing now.
The one thing that wasn't in there that I think would be good is perhaps about how the world interprets you. So that the cave dweller thing, if you could sandwich that in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think it actually changed. I think it's basically people just always interpreted me as a cave dweller. Like it doesn't matter like whether I'm working or playing. It's like I'm gonna be in my cave. But yeah,
that's good. That's it right there.
Yeah.
But whether working or playing, to the world, I'm always seen as a cave dweller, or something like that. That's correct. What you just said there.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
This one might be a little bit longer, but let's see. It's one. Oh, these are long sentences, so I think we're good. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's only 4 sentences. They're just really long sentences. Cool. Nice. Is any progress on Mitchell or?
No, that I've seen so far. So we just keep going with yours. If your head's up for it, you still got some.
Oh yeah, sure. I can definitely do that.
All right. What's the next beat then that you want to do?
Yeah. So the next beat I have is I talk about public speaking. So I kind of already talked about debate, but this kind of broadens it. I also did like forensics and UN. So I figure I can probably sort of flesh that out more. Yeah, because I had like a more complex beat earlier on where I was kind of describing like my transition in like what it was like for me schooling. So I kind of described like the main immediate benefit I got from debate, but I didn't really describe what public speaking was like for me and what I got out of that in general. So I could probably flesh that out in this beat, I think.
Okay, talk about what did you get out of it?
So yes, so yeah, I feel like in general, like there's the academic aspect, but I think it also just gave me a lot of confidence in speaking and talking, just speaking like openly to an audience about things. Like that's a skill that a lot of people don't really have. Like people will be comfortable oftentimes speaking with their friends or whatever, but they won't really be confident like speaking in front of like 20 people or speaking in front of a person who might like have, have an opinion of whether you're right or wrong. Like, well, I mean, friends might as well, but like, in a more like serious or like formal environment, people
and also friends, if friends have different opinions, you often you have goodwill with them already, and you probably know what the points of differencing are. In a crowd, there's the element that there's not goodwill established yet, and you don't know if they're going to object to what you're saying or not, in what way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that helped out when it came to it also, which I think was a great advantage, because in general, I became much more confident when it came to just like asking, like, and even having like conversations with like a teacher while they're teaching a class, Like that environment is typically, at least from my experience, very quiet, like way more quiet than I think should exist in a teaching environment. Like there's too much one-side lecturing. That is colleges, like, I think, are totally doing it wrong when it comes to like when it comes to the lecturing, just the one-sided like let me give you a PowerPoint presentation on how this works, and that's like literally the whole class, and you take some exams, and that's what you learn. So but I'm like one of the few people, like, typically in the room who are comfortable just like, just asking about something and then making like follow-up questions, and sometimes even like, having a back and forth about the discussion. And then on top of that, when I came a part of Podlair, I was much more comfortable getting on camera and talking about, doing the vlog voicing and the PSAs and stuff. I was comfortable, doing that. Whereas I know a lot of people have trouble just getting on camera in general. We encountered many people in Typology Town who just like didn't want to do it. So I think it just made me braver and more confident in general, especially when it came to when it came to speaking in front of people who may not necessarily like agree with me or may not necessarily know me too well. So
yeah, that was a great beat. It really got me in sort of your headspace a bit. One thing I was curious of, kind of following your story, is you said that it gave you more, and then you said that some of the benefits of that more were these connections like you were able to make with the teacher and opening a dialogue up others aren't as comfortable with. That was all great. I was curious then, what was the starting quantity of this equation? So were you already somewhat forward? Were you neutral, or were you actually a bit shy before everything you just said took place? What was your starting point at the pre that moment?
Let's see. I'd say it was probably on the shyer side. It's kind of hard to remember, but I don't remember. I think I was very shy.
I think that's a very important thing to add, because it influences how one looks at all the benefits that you got, because it even makes those benefits seem even more important because you were shy, and now you got to where you're not so shy and sometimes even quite bold.
Yeah, I think it also, I mean, I'm not too sure about this, but I think the activity made me more intense because I became more like, there's like the comfortability speaking, but then there's also like, getting really like opinionated about things. I mean, I was probably pretty intense before then, but I think it gave me more intensity.
Do you think it gave you more intensity, or gave you more of a ability and comfortability with venting that intensity outside of just your?
It may have been both.
So what was it?
Sure.
Okay, so that's cool. So then these are things I'm curious about that would immediately come to my mind. Is that then what was it that you feel increased your intensity? Was it the being exposed to competition like G, or is it being exposed to the kind of like the heightenedness of the environment, V, like being public exposed?
Yeah, I think it was
or something else.
Yeah, I think it may have been a combination. I mean, it's probably a combination of those, but I think mainly, I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but I speculate it probably had something to do with like being opinionated about like the topics, but then combined with like the I guess the environment, the speaking, like actually being in that, because when you're not really speaking as much or voicing yourself as much, I mean, that kind of diminishes your intensity. So I think it's a combination of actually like taking part in the activity, like the environment, but then a combination of that is the my opinionatedness, like on the various topics I was speaking on, and I was being exposed to.
Nice. Okay, excellent. That's great. So while it's hot and fresh, why don't you go ahead and try to capture that as best you can, those sentiments. And while we turn it over to Mitchell for him to kind of give us a tour of what he's been doing.
Oh yeah, sure thing. I'll just I'll quickly write this down.
Nice. Mitchell, so whenever you're ready, you kind of share what you've done since last time.
All right then. So anyway, sorry for
no worries.
out there. I don't know if you got my email, but yeah.
I did.
Did you?
I did.
No, basically. Computer issues are inevitable for me.
No worries.
Anyway.
Yeah, so thanks Senate. That told us that we just kind of went ahead and made good use of the time until you got back on.
So yeah, since last time, which was just a few days ago, basically, yeah, I just reflected a little bit on everything, you know, because basically, just before the hangout, I told you last time before I came on, I basically mocked up those 43 beat ideas and the order of it, and then we kind of talked out most of it up until the last point. So that gave me a chance to sort of, after I spoke it out, to reflect on it a little bit and think about what I might want to add, because we went through it. So like, what do I think I maybe was missing and stuff? How I might want to change things, or even what I liked. But yeah, what's working.
Okay.
And then what you wanted. Yeah, I can share some of that, and I can, and also we can finish
the last parts. Yes, nice.
So actually, kind of a big one, just very high level, is I was just thinking about the overall structure of it, and one thing that you'll notice is that I basically have 4 sections here. So there's growing up, Podler, my intellectual journey, and my projects. And like right in the middle of the intellectual journey is like way bigger than everything. Right. So that's a little weird. I think I might split it up into, I'm thinking 5 or 6 sections. So I'm at least splitting that into 2. And I've been thinking about how I want to do that. And also I might split the projects up into 2 as well. This is also a little misleading because I've been thinking about, as a part of this, like for what I'm actually going to say on the beats and stuff like that, some of them might end up being 2 beats even. So like even this might not even be all of them.
Gotcha.
So like growing up might look shorter than it is, because I feel like some of these are going to probably be like 2 beats, because they're kind of, there's a lot going on there in some of them.
Gotcha. What you said on the one you're going to split in half, you were thinking about how you might make that call?
Yes. So one thing I mentioned as a part of everything I went through and all the ideas I explored is I went through like just a lot of extreme changes in perspective over a lot. So I think when I was into it at first, I think I'll go through, maybe the first half will be when I was really more in the initial stages of exploring, but also in a way kind of more extreme in my views, and kind of thrown around by it more. And then I think the second half will be more of a gaining of perspective on it, and then my personal procedure and politics and stuff like that.
I like that. That sounds good.
I think that makes sense from like a development standpoint. And it will relate. I mean, the sections might reference each other, obviously, but yeah. And then one thing I'm debating too is like the Podler section. I don't know if I want to like, I don't want to, I think it's fine being its own section, but I don't know if I want to have it, like if I want to have like half of the journey section before it, and then half the journey section afterwards. I don't know. I'm weighing that a little bit, so I guess that's just an idea. Because I can get into maybe to some of like Baroque challenges I have in games and ways that has interfaced with my journey, which is why I thought that would be sensible.
Gotcha.
Right there, forgot to. Yeah, definitely growing up will be first, and the projects will be last. And I might split up the projects into 2 as well. That's a fairly decent sized one, and some of those might get split up.
Is there reasoning you're thinking about using there?
Yes. So the reasoning is basically aspects of them that are more professional and technical, and aspects that are more personal and spiritual.
Gotcha.
So, and up in the air because I have to see how well it actually leans out. And if it doesn't end up being that many more beats, then I guess it's probably a fine section. But
Gotcha.
it's just something to think about. So that's that. Like structurally, there's some like little stuff within the beats, but I'm gonna get that. I'll just wait until I actually beat out. As far as like how I want to start developing the beats, I was thinking that because for some of them I don't know exactly what I want to say yet. Obviously, I might do like bullet points first, just under the beat, like points I want to make.
Yeah.
And then, shape that as I will, take out as I need to. That whatever, and I can don't know if we do this. That might be. I think that's probably what I'm going to try to do for next time. I try to have bullet points for most or all of the beats.
That's great.
And I can really start getting an idea of what I want to actually say. There are probably some beats I think about doing even without that, but that's in the first few. Yeah.
Yeah, some of them like. Oh yeah. I noticed that like when I was writing bullet points, like some of them I just like, some of them, it felt a little easier for me to just like give bullet points on the beats. But for others, I just like when I started writing bullet points, I noticed like my bullet points were like full-blown sentences. And I was like, okay, if I just remove the bullet points, this becomes a beat. So I don't know.
Yeah, that might happen. That might happen too. Yeah. So yeah, so just like one example of like a beat I might split up. So like on my Seeker Obsessions Part 2, my second beat I have there, where I talk about just some of the stuff I got really into, like Pokemon, Mario, Harry Potter, and Star Wars. Like, I think Star Wars is probably gonna get its own beat.
No,
yeah, I have so much to say
sounds
about
like
that.
Something that's pretty important.
Yeah, I have too much to say about that to like fit it in as like a little side note in that beat. It just wouldn't work for me. The other ones can fit in one beat probably. I mean, they were somewhat important, but they were more like phases. Star Wars less so. So yeah, that's just an example of like why some of these beats might look like one beat, but I might get split them up into two. I can't do too many because I already have a fair amount.
Right. But you do have to play. You guys still got 15 or so play.
Some of like my obsession with typology would probably take up 2 beats. There's a lot to say about that. And
Gotcha.
my journey through that.
Do you have an idea how you think about splitting that, or you'll wait till you start writing?
I haven't actually really thought about it much yet. I guess it's just that I know there's so much in there that I have a hard time imagining it fitting into one beat. But yeah, I guess I'll get into it later.
Nice.
There's probably a lot to say about tennis, but I think I probably can fit in a beat. Anyway, yeah.
So were those the high level kind of changes you're?
Yeah.
All right. So now you still the end is the outline.
Yeah, I guess I'll just get into that. Yeah, and I just thought of like and then just besides the high level changes, I was just thinking about like individual beats and little things I might want to add. But I'll get into that more when I do the bullet.
Okay, but if you have anything that's jumping on you to share, by all means, that'd be good.
Yeah, I think I'm good. For now. Yeah, I was excited to think about it at a high level because I can feel it shaping into more of a story. It's like just even putting it out at first, obviously it's going to be a little bit cruder.
Yeah,
it's going to turn out to be.
That's the crucial first step.
Yeah.
You know, saying something like this, like writing is rewriting, but first you have to write it all.
It really is. Literally, in one of my classes right now, one of my philosophy classes that I'm taking this quarter, my professor, that is so important to him, the rewriting aspect of writing, which he says is way more important than actual writing, that he actually gives us not that much time to write our final paper. It has to be done by the 26th, but then when we just got the topics like a little while ago, but then we're going to be rewriting it for like the rest of the class based on feedback.
Yeah, both phases are very important. Getting yourself to just write and then to go back to it and keep working it. That's what makes it so great.
Yeah, I experienced that a little bit with, well, I guess I experienced that somewhat with programming. Like with programming, like you don't really, it doesn't need to be written well in order to work. But I do notice like I'm very like sloppy when I write code. So like I know like in order to clean up the sloppiness, I know that it's that even though like I'm very sloppy the first time I write it, it becomes like dramatically cleaner, like by just like looking at it again and seeing if I can clean it up. So it becomes more manageable for me, like the complexity and stuff. So it seems like a pretty universal thing, like whether you're writing music or writing anything, like the first time you crack you're going to make at it, it's going to be kind of a mess. But you know, if you keep working at it, you should be able to make it more concisely say what you want to say, I guess.
Definitely. And sometimes you have to kind of get the first draft out to actually know what you're trying to write. And then when you go back to the rewriting, one, it's extra effort, extra polish. Obviously, that's going to make it better just there. Mm-hmm. But there's also the perspective. Like often when you're writing it the first time, you don't know what it is you're writing. For example, with that 100-page email I sent to my family telling them we are estranged now. Back in the day, I wish in retrospect that I'd known what spell I was trying to do. You know what I mean? But I didn't really know that until after I sent it, really even a few years later. But if I had known that, then I actually could have written that better, knowing what the spell is. So sometimes you have to kind of like, what is that? Oh, I think I'm trying to do a fireball. Sometimes the first spell you don't even know. Something wants to come out and you don't even really know what it is. You just kind of keep trying to channel it to get out. And you're like, oh, okay. You yourself, they're like, oh, okay, I guess that's what we're going for.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like the first like attempt you make at writing it. It's kind of like the planning stage, Like some people think, it's effective to make like official outlines and stuff, but oftentimes just like attempting to write it will teach you like the plan that you're looking to make, and then the next time you write it, or if you just need to rewrite certain parts of it, that will end up giving you the follow through to finishing it and making it good.
But just to give credit, Nexi jumped in there after me, which is there is also benefit from, for me, I get a classic one. It's like a lot of times when I'm talking like just raw style, I am talking mainly extemporaneously, off the cuff.
Yep.
But I do write down a few things on a page of why I'm there. It's, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's a balance between how much of a runway you want versus it being confining. Being Naiji, we probably want a very light Zevi, kind of runway. But it's nice to have some very general markers of why, kind of like this, about yourself. That's very vague, but it gives a general idea of what you're shooting for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I agree. I myself tend to be very loose with the outlines when I'm going to go on camera or I'm going to write. But my outlines often are just a list of things I want to talk about. It's, you know what I mean? No more organized than that. But even just making a list, you'll find that once you make the list, if you pause for a moment before going on camera or before writing, you'll start to kind of move the list items around a little bit. And you know what I mean? And then you can do more with that, or you can just go right to writing it. You know what I mean? But just making a list of like, why am I actually opening up this email at all? You just kind of make a list there, and then just kind of move them around a little bit so there's some kind of quote unquote flow or arc.
That's exactly what I experienced in writing that email. So basically, I just wrote it out. I tried to make some structure to it, but obviously after I wrote it out and even especially spoke it out, which is even another level of like kind of putting it out there to see what it really sounds and feels like. Really, I start wanting to move it around.
Exactly. I actually count on that a lot of times. Like I don't even have to ask, but that's extra effort. It's kind of funny. If I put it out and then I pause and then I come back and look at it, there's an urge to make it better. Like it literally, like, oh no, you mean because the crushing perfectionism can be quite a good tool because you come back and look at it, you're like, oh, if I have just to do it a second time, and actually you do, as many times you revise something before you send out the permanent record, you have a chance to kind of like, if I was to say that again, I would do this a little better like here.
Yeah. So, so I guess the idea is like, or high level is, you want to like get to structure, but you don't want to like over constrain early on. So yeah, like what I'm doing here, like I started out with just a list of topics I wanted to cover, and then I made sub bullet points for those topics, which ended up being beats. And then from there, I like started to make bullet points to the beats, but then I just said, like at that point, like I just felt like, okay, with these topics, I feel like I should just start writing the beats. So, and I feel like it's worked out, but I guess like high level, like this whole like about me, section, it was really helpful. Just starting out with a looser structure, and then when I got down to the nitty gritty, that's when I would like start really fleshing things out.
Nice. That's what I was hoping for. Get a good balance of what we need there. Okay, so Mitchell, where are we with you're going to?
We were going to get into the last part of my mini outline list thing, just the project section. So I could explain just briefly the beats there.
I go and take your time because Ben and I went for a while, so if you go and just.
Okay. So yeah, first one. What was that? Let me find it. Oh, yeah. So just I guess I'll call it like maths of science and philosophy and math and stuff like that, and my take on everything. So it's kind of like a synthesis of a lot of the stuff I've learned. And I wrote a little bit on this beat. I want to flesh it out a little bit, what that meant. It's kind of vague. Yeah, so like actually Ben was even talking about this a little bit too when he was talking about math and why it can be hard to learn. And it's so like it's often taught in this way that's so like abstract and rigorous, but like decontextualized. Like you're just learning this thing to complete this course, and you don't see how it really relates to everything else and how it's used. I think that applies to so many subjects that are often seen as like you can't really tackle that. So, and I maybe experienced that. I experienced that too when I learned about some of these things, but over the time, kind of sitting and marinating in it, you start understanding it more, and you realize that you can often explain it better and more relatable to people's lives and in a way that's like more relevant to them. So that's something that really interests me to do. So that's really what that's about. Because it's important stuff. All right, so then the next one is something I've been thinking about a lot. And it's basically, I mentioned it, I think, when I first even just talked. I don't think it was even before Tuesday. Or I didn't mention it on Tuesday. I think I mentioned it Thursday or Tuesday, I believe before, where I was just talking about my general arc that I'd written on the page. And it was basically this like gap in my life that I feel all the time, and that I felt in various ways for a very long time between my more like sort of dry STEM academic sort of interests, which are very important to me, the kind of epic, purposeful, spiritual, fantastical romance aspect of life that's also important to me, and just normal, mundane, this is the way of things life that you have to engage with. So all three of those things I feel like have a hard time connecting sometimes, and that's a problem that I see myself as being very occupied with trying to solve, and it's not easy. So that's what that beat's going to be about. Yes, so then education system. Mentioned that obviously I'm not super fond of the way that works right now. And So I guess but education is very important to me, and learning and stuff like that. And it's more available than ever in the modern internet age. So I think it's incumbent on people who know most about the human condition to really think about, and I'm very interested in this, how we should actually approach that education and informing people. That's what that beat's going to be about, and how to do that well and in a way that is helpful and pleasurable even to people. So various kinds of Mojo technologies is something Ben and I have been discussing that stuff a lot. So things that could the sample server is a great example of that already. That's doing really well all the time. And we're thinking about we're getting more pictures and stuff like that, so we can build a better database of images so that we can actually train something that might be able to recognize Mojo to a degree. I don't know what degree that's really possible at this point, though, based on the technology. But it's an interesting project. And we've been thinking about ways to even flesh out this the sample server based on libraries like OpenCV and stuff like that, where you can narrow in on features and stuff to better teach the Mojo phenomenon. Anyway, we can learn more about it too. But I'll get more into that in the beat. And then I'm interested in the biology of Mojo. How does because we're still trying to figure out what is it exactly, even if we could read it, which is very important. That doesn't really answer the question of what it is. So what are we reading exactly? As we talked about on Facebook recently, DNA stuff. Can we find it there? I really hope so. How does it relate to the brain? How does it relate to modern findings in psychology and stuff like that? I have a lot of thoughts on that. And it's definitely a very open, interesting case. So another one, intra-Mojo differences. So differences between people of the same Mojo is a topic that interests me, because it just can further refine how we understand each other and get along and stuff like that. Obviously, Mojo is a big first step. And all that means as far as recognition and inspiration and all that stuff. But so where do we go from there? That's sort of the question.
I think that would be very it's very synergistic. It's because it's we're we've started out with Mojo, but then there's all of these different formulas that fall within the classification of a certain Mojo, and we all have different formulas, there's different math going on there with our powers, the way we're using them, the rifts that we have.
Absolutely.
So having a deeper understanding of the way that rifts work and how they manifest would be really.
That's one I don't derail Mitchell saying, so make this quick, but lots of ideas I want to talk about, Ben, with the program and more to come. But on this is riffing, where people could make riff suggestions, and then people could also rate riffs, how much a riff suggestion they resonate with that themselves. That'd be kind of cool to kind of teach people about riffing, to have a riff library with ratings.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, we can begin to sort of classify people into different riffs, and it would be kind of fuzzy, because some people would be kind of
right.
It is quite challenging, but at the same time, there's people.
There is something.
Eventually, there's something to that,
There is definitely. But let's go back to Mitchell. But it's exciting. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's physiological riffs, and obviously any kind of riffing that we want to do, eventually I'd want to link back to that at some point, because that's one of the coolest things about the Mojo phenomenon, is that we can take these ideas that have epic spiritual meaning, but it can give them like a kind of embodiment when you can actually see them and interact with them in a very tactile way. And that's something that all these other typologies are really lacking. And that's really what gives it the kind of clarity and power that it has. But that might not always be where you start as far as thinking about riffs. So another product of mine, obviously, I'm just very interested in AI in general, and just not even necessarily for Mojo specifically, although obviously I'm interested in that, but just general artificial intelligence is something I'm always studying, and I think it's just going to be really important into how we run our society and everything like that, and how we make our decisions, and we have to get comfortable with all the implications of it and understand them. And also we have to understand what consciousness and life are and how it relates to that. It's like this one massive case that is important and also kind of pressing in a way, because developments are always they're not waiting for us to get better. There's all kinds of forces out there in the world trying to do things with the power of modern technology. We have to make sure we're using it responsibly. And that's like maybe more of like the prohibitive words angle of it, but obviously also there's so many cool things we can do with it to improve our lives and to enhance our understanding of life. So the next beat I have here, I don't know if it really belongs here, but it's just a beat on like some of my studies in computer science and stuff. That would probably belong more in my intellectual journey. Yeah, I don't know how it ended up here. I think that was just a mistake.
But what is it you were thinking of saying there?
Yeah, so it was just talking about like, I mean, it relates a little bit to my life because obviously I'm studying AI and stuff like that, and so the computational limits and stuff and quantum computing relate to my interests in that regard, which is what the beat was about. But also relates to my intellectual journey. So maybe that'll go in like because I talked about technology around the end of my politics beat. That was actually my last beat there. I was talking about the importance of technological innovation and responsibility and stuff. So I might put that there. And then that would actually, that could segue into some of my professional goals and stuff like that. That makes sense. Yeah, so it does relate to it. That's why, I mean, this was like hard for me to place, but yeah, I don't know if I guess it is, what I'm saying is it doesn't really fit in like the middle of my project beats. Not that it doesn't fit there at all. It does relate to a little bit. So yeah, and the next beat was my career goals, which is, like I said, I want to become an AI researcher, and my focus right now is, as far as what I'm learning and what I want to do, is more visually and like language focus. So using AI to understand, obviously, computer vision and to understand language are interesting to actually like parse natural language. So because those are my focuses right now, because they're particularly they do interest me, and they're particularly kind of hot on the market right now. So those are like skills you want to have. But more broadly, maybe down the line, I am also still interested in the more cognitive aspect of it. Like actually, because those are all more about like learning how to do specific practical things we want, but actually building an AI that can do cool, like upper level human tasks, like prove mathematical theorems or something like that, or make inventions. That would be cool. Interact with humans in a friendly, equal sort of way. That's more broad goals. And the last two beats are related. which is, so I think it'll make sense to split into two. Or basically, I already did split it into two, so that's nice. It's about the problems with, the first one's more just about the general problems with psychiatry, and also just the general mental malaise in the world and what to make of that. I talk about some thinkers who criticize the modern psychiatric establishment, like Thomas Zass, Nietzsche, and I've read some of his work. I think Demas requested at one point. I'm not pretty sure, but because I know he's into that stuff too. Like both of our families, and I know a lot of other people's families too, have been involved with that industry, and I think we've seen like how it can confuse people in a way. While maybe you think that it's helping, not that it can't help at all, but and then just in this community too. Obviously, I'm interested in building a community where healing and growth are put on a pedestal as like, you know, some of the most important things that we have. And so I want to make a newer, better kind of psychotherapeutic practice in place of the mess going on, based on a real understanding of the human condition and consciousness, which we have access to in a way that other people don't at this point, but could. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it.
Nice.
But there's obviously a lot more to say about those.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's a good, and that would then you have put a beat after that, sort of like your, you know, mission statement going forward.
Oh yeah, I didn't have one, but if that's necessary, which I guess I think you did mention something about an intro and a conclusion. I guess
Yeah, exactly. But that's at the very end. But that I'm saying is that would be a nice one to be like the end of the arc, and then me going forward. That would be. That sounds.
So that's interesting. I want to talk about that then. So like, because I don't have an intro or a conclusion beat, and so that's something to add. Like, what do you say for those? Because I feel like
basically
growing up,
once you make the arc, you kind of said a lot about this character and what's going on with their development, their headspace, and things they've done and what they're into.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you have that constructed, it's large. So before you show it, you need a beat to basically kind of give them a teaser trailer of that movie.
Okay, so that's what I think of, like the intro beat.
Yes.
That makes sense. And the conclusion?
For the conclusion, it's sort of like, now that you know about this character, it's sort of like a teaser. So the first one's like a teaser into that character's backstory. And then the last one's actually a teaser for the upcoming season of your life. Or seasons of your life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay,
Right.
so if you're up for it, if you're tired, let me know. But if you're up for it, Mitchell, we can do what I was doing with Ben, and we swap back and forth here. You go first, Mitchell, because Ben and I did think of two already or something like that. Is talk to us just kind of off the cuff about one of these beats that you are, you know, that kind of jumps to you right now, and see if you can't kind of talk out what you want to say, and then afterwards you can kind of try to capture that into a pretty good outline, or even a mock first draft.
Sure. Yeah, I've been thinking about a few. I can probably do that.
I kind of like this this ritual of just, I mean, for most of these, I'm gonna flesh these out on my own, but it's kind of fun to flesh it out in person, because it helps having another person to get your ideas rolling, because they may be interested in particular things, and that kind of leads to more conversation, and it's sort of, it really fills you up with ideas.
I hear that. Good.
I had one more question. And I don't know, you probably have felt this too, Coach, because, you know, you obviously did an About Me section a long time ago, because it's just been so important as the founder of Baudelaire. You and Jailene and Ademus kind of had step out there for a while. And obviously this is something that interests me, because, you know, I develop and change a lot, as do you. Like, how do we update this going forward? Because obviously, like, the intro's like a teaser for the About Me, but when I was thinking about the conclusion, which is like a teaser for like where this character is going next, well, that's going to change. over my life. And on top of that, I might even change my procedure or politics or whatever. I don't know for sure, but any particular, my perspective on something could change. Could we change our About Me section? I mean, obviously, I'm assuming you would say yes to that.
Yes. So, so first of all, two things. The most immediate is yes, you can go back and update it. I'll then add two other things on that. Is you can update it where you change it around and make it where it's more where you currently are thinking, or you can also or treat it as like a past diary entry to the world about yourself, where you go back and give commentary about the headspace you were when you first wrote that, as compared to your editorial comments about where you are now. And then you could revisit that multiple times over the years. And then there's that, and the fact that you would then, of course, have future blogs that you would be doing and writings that would, always. That's always with with great thinkers of any kind. If they're growing as they should, then each year their ideas expand, but they also update ideas they already knew. So when you ask someone like, what was so-and-so's opinion on something, you have to not just say like, what it was in general, but you have to or quote something from them. You need to say where in their life they were. What was their age? What does that mean as far as their experiences? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So yes, short answer is yes, you can change it around, go back as much as you want. You can also go back and do editorial, and you can do expanding material as you kind of go forward, do new adventures and learn new things. And you can always kind of give your latest position on something.
Cool. Yeah. I like the diary entry approach. It's interesting. So like, it's seeing it as like, this is like kind of a starting point. So it's kind of a big diary entry, but then, later on, I might not do something quite exactly like this again, where I go with like a whole About Me phase, but I might say, oh, here's what I was thinking at the time, but here's my
exactly. This is your initial personal platform, and then from there you can kind of continue to launch. But yeah, you won't probably have to do this again, but you kind of need to. Like most artists, their first album isn't about yourself album. Other albums have like themes. They went to Madrid, or they had a breakup, or whatever. But the first one is kind of a big encompassing of, since you didn't know who I was until I came out as an artist, here's to catch you up. That first catch up, which is the about yourself, it's pretty big because you and the world hadn't really had this conversation yet.
Yeah, but I guess that's true. Like what you think about, like when they do put out their songs, I mean, they rarely go back and change their songs. I mean, right. The song was like a piece of art at the time. So they're just going to let that be what it is. But then, your art expands.
Exactly.
Some artists even mention old songs of theirs, I suppose, in their songs. So yeah, as far as beats, probably some of these ones obviously I want to think about a lot more, but some ones that are maybe less like I'm worried about what I want to say is like the growing up section. I think it's just pretty maybe simpler stuff. Not that it's not important though. So yeah, intro I don't have yet. That I'll have to really think about. But
yeah, and actually I would highly recommend doing the intro and the outro, so to speak. After you've actually done a good amount of writing of everything else.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you can see like the arc really forming what you said and how you really feel about it. If you try to, because it's a little bit like trying to, we were talking about like trying to put too much structure at the beginning.
Yeah. Like
on top of like one, it's just sort of hard because you haven't really let it sort of breathe yet. But even on top of that, like like it's almost like limiting.
I think it is, but very necessary.
Yeah.
Once the arc is kind of formed, they really do service. The intro and outro service that arc very well.
Yeah, they're meant to sort of report on all the other stuff you've done. They're not meant to actually tell you what to do.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Cool. So we can talk about maybe All right, well, maybe just the first beat. All right, I have thought about that a little bit. So Secret Obsessions Part 1. I think that can probably be its own beat. So basically, when I was a kid, I've always had a very just obsessive personality in terms of how I get into stuff. I would have these, it is not exactly the beat yet, but I would have these various stages of interest, and then I would like do very little else and get like, I want to get like encyclopedic knowledge of it. It wasn't at the time, even when it started, it wasn't like an abstract desire. Like I wanted that, like I just happened that way. So like I was into cars when I was really, really young for some reason. And we'd go to like car dealerships, and I would always like take they have like these booklets in there where they have all the different kinds of cars, and it has all the different like colors and keys and stuff in there. And I would get to the point where I saw someone's key, and I would know what car they had. So like I would always point that out. When I was like 3 or 4. It was like one of my first interests. I don't know. I'm still debating, or not debating, but like sort of pondering what exactly the significance of that is. But maybe just because I guess not like as much of a discovery thing, or like as much as I'm into now. Because it's more of like, I guess, an aesthetic interest in a way. But
what I was kind of struck by myself a little bit is it did seem like some kind of attempt to make sense of it, put some order on it, to track it, to be a tracker of some kind of pattern, a pattern tracker.
Yeah. So I guess maybe there's 2 angles I can put on that. So one is that, so like trying to get a sense of someone's story, I guess, from something like a small detail, and so that's kind of like the pattern tracker aspect. And then just generally the way I get into my interests and stuff like that. So then later on, I got, when I was young, I was actually quite into science. I don't remember even how I really got into it. We were just going to museums and stuff, but I thought it was really, really cool. And there's a lot of museums in Chicago. So yeah, I really loved astronomy, and I was like, go to the library all the time. Astronomy, natural disasters, and geology.
What was it about them?
Yeah. So what I would do is so particularly in geology, like precious gemstones. Astronomy, precious gemstones, precious gemstones, really exotic astronomical objects, and natural disasters and things like that. They just have this like ethereal, exotic beauty, and I guess that's just sort of occupied my simulator when I was young. Like it just struck me, and I would with that sense of like wonder and amazement, and I would just want to learn everything about them. So I would learn all these facts about the solar system. I would play role-playing games as the various planets and stuff like that. Again, like personalities. I would learn about like facts about, as really like as I said, precious gemstones at one point. I don't know. A lot of stuff I don't remember at all really anymore. But just I remember that I did it. And like natural disasters, so like hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. There's like a lot of existential things that I think interest children sometimes, because they can also cause a lot of like death and stuff. So sometimes children get like into that in a sort of odd way. Like it's like, what are all like the possibilities of existence in this very broad sense? And that's one of the things that interests me about natural disasters.
So I think you said a bunch of good stuff there.
Yeah, that's a lot, I think.
You want to try, this we do it, Ben. Do you want to take a moment now that's sort of hot and fresh and kind of try and capture it some? And while you're doing that, Ben will go, and then you can try to tell us what you captured.
Okay, sure.
All right, Ben, do you want to try another beat?
Yeah, I was thinking I would actually, because with the last beat I didn't actually speak it. I just, we just went over, we just had a conversation about it, and I wrote it down.
Okay.
So I was thinking what I could do is, I could speak the one that I wrote down, that we did last time, or before.
Why don't you do that, and then you can try to open up a new one.
Yeah, let's do that. So I'll just do this one.
And then Mitchell will go back to you for you just to kind of read out what you captured, and that'll be the session. I think that'll be really good.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. Nice. So, all right. So I did various public speaking activities, including debate, Model United Nations, and extemporaneous speaking on various political topics. This greatly heightened my overall bearing and confidence when it came to speaking what I am thinking about on any given topic to people that I may or may not have a personal relationship or connection to. I became more intensely interested in various major social and political issues that are of great impact to humans today, and also developed much stronger reasoning skills than I had previously. I still benefit from these skills as a programmer and pod layer practitioner today.
Boom, mic drop.
Nice. And then for the next one, I just talk about, I haven't written this yet, but it's about like my pod layer friends. So it's, so I guess I can talk about, about my pod layer friends with my pod layer. I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's see. Yeah. So trying to. I mean, I guess it's such like a. I mean, I know how it's benefited me. Like I'm on this, this heroic journey, and like being on like a heroic journey, with friends is like the best thing ever. So
that's kind of a good arc for the thing that kind of hangs some stuff on that.
Yeah.
Like what are some of those people, and what are some of those things that you do?
Yeah. So, like Mitchell, for example, I have these conversations with Mitchell on Facebook, and it's very insightful, and I learn a lot. But I can also connect it, to pod layer and sort of have a heroic story to it. It's not just conversation, just for the sake of it. Although we can have very relaxed and light hard conversation, but then we can quickly jump over to talking about something that's a little more meaningful. Whereas with other friends that I've had in the past, I would just like have conversations with them, purely based on that I happen to be interested in that topic, Whereas it sort of feels like there's more of a greater meaning and purpose to the friendship. It's not just being a friend with that person to be that person's friend. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously good, but it's good to actually, have a meaning, have that, really mean something in terms of being a hero. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. And then, the same goes for you, for Jailene. I haven't talked as much with Ademus recently, but we've had good connections. And as well as various other people who've been part of pod layer, Bruno, Starglow, etc. I mean, I know Bruno isn't here anymore, but
yeah, I got you. That's cool. So you're thinking about as far as how you organize the beat, are you thinking about maybe organizing it by people or by activities? Because either way, you'll talk about both. But do you?
Yeah, I think activities might be good. And then I can kind of like, I might briefly mention people like as I'm talking about the activities. Yeah. So one thing I can mention is these hangouts. Another thing is like on Facebook we have like Underground Temple, and then I have these conversations with Mitchell, so I could mention, I can mention that as well.
Gotcha. Long emails.
Long email threads, totally. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great. So why don't you go ahead and work on capturing that, and I guess we'll hand off to Mitchell. Take us home.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm still kind of in the process here.
Well, might end a few minutes early then. That's great. This is not good.
Anyway, if you're interested, we have visitors on our live stream.
Ah, who's that?
I don't know. G-Scriddle as usual, but then there's this person, you guy. No idea who that is. He said, "Coach!" Exclamation point.
Hey there. I'm not sure who the person is, but hello.
Carolyn knows me that I asked her, but she didn't say.
That's cool. And especially as we get further, L10 plus, and we're all doing videos of latest things, and we're like doing response videos, and then we do hangouts where we talk about stuff. It's going to be really, 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 really cool. And we'll be going over a lot of topical items, and people can ask us questions. And very cool.
Yeah, so I still don't really quite have it in like beat form yet exactly, if that's okay. But
sure,
I made progress. Like I'm getting into like what I want to say. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Massaging it.
Like it's more in bullet point.
Cool.
A refined bullet point.
Okay.
Section. So I kind of like the first sentence or so, maybe. Obviously, I might change it. So ever since I was a child, I had an intense hunger to understand the most exotic reaches of existence in human life and beyond, developing encyclopedic stores of eccentric knowledge in the process. So that's basically the first introduction.
That's nice. That's really strong.
And so the 4 I came up with, 4 or 5, I guess, at this point. So cars, I'll start with that, and what that, this is like, obviously, this is where I'm like thinking, obviously still in the bullet point. I don't have like a sentence yet, but I think I was thinking back into it, like what it interested me about it is my dad was interested in cars, so he would talk to me about stuff when I was a little kid, and I found them like mechanically fascinating. But then, I learned that sometimes you could tell things about people's like social class and stuff like that by what cars they drive. They also just were very beautiful in a lot of ways. Yeah, I had in a weird way, I had more aesthetic interests, I think, as a younger kid than I do now. For a while, I think I kind of shied away from that, but yeah, now I have more aesthetic interests with regard to maybe language and stuff like that, but and fantasy and stuff. But yeah, that was one of the things that fascinated me about cars, and then gemstones and stuff. I would collect gemstones, and I will like learn about them. So just like one of the cool configurations that matter could take. I was really into like Disney at the time, and I would collect cool figurines and stuff like that. Then there's the natural disasters. So like, what are the most just awesome, exotic possibilities of things that could happen on Earth. I think that's what fascinated me about those. So I learned all about tornadoes and earthquakes and hurricanes, and how likely they were, major ones that happened, and what they could do. I guess so that I could feel more prepared in my childlike way. And then astronomy is the last one, so that's like kind of beyond this world. Yeah, I was just really fascinated by, again, like what are these sort of outer possibilities of existence. I studied up on solar systems, really endlessly fascinated by the planets, and stuff like that, and stars, red giants and blue giants, and how hot they were, what they were made out of, black holes, and even now black holes are still a subject of major study and fascination. We still don't really understand them. There was a paper that came out a little while ago by the physicist Laura Mersini-Houghton, who I requested for a quiz, suggesting that they didn't even exist. Because I guess technically they've never been observed, but that paper is not generally accepted for that conclusion exactly. People still think they exist. But anyway, that interested me as a kid. So I'll talk about that. And that's pretty much the beat. That's actually kind of a big beat.
It is. And one thing about when there's is if you could, you said what it is that grabbed you and what satisfied you. What do you think it was that was causing that? Or is there a unifying kind of urge you could sort of link these activities under?
Yeah, I guess that's what I was trying to do. So a few things, and maybe I can refine this, but so I think I was just interested in this raw like fascination with just the possibilities of existence and like their outermost reaches, and for even like in a very even aesthetic sort of way, like it wasn't even necessarily that like intellectual in the sense of like I didn't have like knowledge of like that level of, like I didn't really know like physics then, but like I just thought it was so cool to think about these things. It's like addicting to me, and I would literally, like I said, I would literally play games where I would pretend I was the planets and like beat it and give them personalities.
That's cool. That's a strong beat. That's a really good beat to get to kind of get the ball rolling.
It's just aesthetic interest.
I am Jupiter.
That's awesome.
My favorite was actually always Saturn.
It
has a really, really cool ring structure.
Right.
By far the most massive of all the planets, even though Jupiter's bigger
and
than Saturn.
that ring is probably one of the most distinct. People like think of like a distinct planet, and whenever people go space, they often do Saturn just because.
Yeah, Saturn's like kind of the. And then when I was a kid, Pluto was a planet, and now it's not.
Oh no, it's sad.
Yeah. But I don't think Pluto was ever my favorite, because Pluto, like, it's kind of cool because it's like way out there, but like
Right.
Pluto and Neptune cross, so like it's not even really always the most out there, and it's kind of small and boring in comparison to the gas giants. So I know it has one moon. I remember. I'm really trying to recall. I'm recalling a lot of this now because like, I didn't really think about this much when I was writing the beat. It was just an interest I knew I had. It'd be kind of fun to get back into. But,
Cool.
yeah, I don't really remember it much anymore.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. I look forward to the next stage of you writing it, but I'm already enjoying it quite a bit. All right, that's a perfect place for us to sign off with. We're right on the nose there, and then I guess I'll see you guys on Sunday, and I believe we're doing Nijai Mail, a tour.
Nice. Yeah. Oh yeah. I chose that for this week. Yep.
That's why Ben was like, "That's interesting. I wonder who chose that."
Well, what are we doing this week? Sorry, I didn't hear.
A tour of the Nijai Mail.
Yeah. Carolyn was asking me a question. She asked me if I had Hot Wheels, those little cars. I did have those as a kid. I had so many toys.
Oh, I had some of those too.
I was spoiled. I was
All
really
right.
spoiled.
Well, I have some stuff-
And then she asked you, why don't you participate in these?
What's that?
I don't know whether that's even true, but Carolyn asked you, well, why don't you participate in these?
In these what? in these
in
discussions.
these hangouts, I guess. I guess I assume she means telling your story, maybe because you've already done.
Yeah,
On me?
I've already done quite a bit of About Me in the Podlayer Proclamation, but I intend to do more. I'm very excited to do that, but I feel that at this point it's really good to get these guys to their L10 plus, and then I will pour back on my material and include more. But then I don't want to overwhelm the airways. I'd like them to kind of get up their voice, and then yeah, I look forward to sharing even more about what's going on with me and my
Yeah,
friends.
Coach did some really good Truth Fire vlogs a long time ago that I know I watched like most or all of. So if you were just interested in that, you can go back to those.
Cool. But yes, there definitely will be more, and I look forward to having fellow seekers here, L10 plusers to get into. Oh, very, very cool. All right, guys, have a great evening, and I will see you on Sunday. And thanks to those who are watching, to Geesh Girl, of course, and to the other person who what was the name again?
You guy.
You guy. Oh, thanks for watching. All right, guys, have a great night.
Have a good night.
Night.